Hi, my name is Jeremy Warner. I would like to speak directly to President Obama, his administration, all of the members of Congress, and anyone else who will listen. In October of 2005, I was in a car accident. The damage left me trapped, pinned between the dash and the seat, and suspended in my 2005 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, which had rolled over onto its passenger side. I had several severe injuries, all of which would have healed. Then a fire ignited in the engine compartment that burned through the firewall into the passenger compartment. Somehow I was rescued. But when you look at the wreckage of the vehicle, the fact that I'm alive is unbelievable. 5.5 weeks later, I awoke from a medically induced coma to learn that both of my legs had been amputated from above each knee. My lower legs had sustained fourth-degree burns. The burns caused my body to become deathly ill. My kidneys had failed and my lungs had failed. The only chance that the doctors had to save my life was to amputate my legs, and that wasn't even a guarantee. My parents had to make that decision without being able to speak with me. My 4-year-old niece became selectively mute from the overwhelming sadness that she felt around her. The expert engineers who examined the wreckage determined that the fire was caused by highly flammable brake fluid. The plastic reservoir that held the brake fluid had shattered during the accident and leaked all of the flammable liquid into the hot engine. I believe this happened because of an unsafe, defective design, because the reservoir that was not protected from impact, and Chrysler had used a safer metal reservoir for brake fluid in previous Jeep Wrangler models. In July of 2006, I filed a lawsuit against Chrysler. In November of 2008, Chrysler used the financial instability of the time to delay the court-ordered mediation that was to occur that month until May 5th of 2009, just 5 days after they declared bankruptcy. Through the bankruptcy process, the new Chrysler shed its responsibility for claims that had to do with cars sold by the, quote, old Chrysler. This includes past, present, and future injuries and deaths caused by these vehicles, many of which are still being sold by Chrysler today. I have a constitutional Seventh Amendment right to have my case heard in court. So do over 300 other people who have claims against Chrysler. If Chrysler will not accept responsibility for these defects and the injuries that they have caused, then a jury must weigh each case and make that decision for them. Instead, they have used our bankruptcy laws to get immunity from any injuries or deaths caused by any of the vehicles that were sold pre-bankruptcy. The profitable assets of Chrysler have been sold to a new company that is still selling the same cars that it was selling in April. Our tax dollars were used to help create the, quote, new Chrysler. The American people are now part owners of the company. GM has asked for a similar deal, although they have agreed to accept responsibility for future injuries and deaths, but not any pending claims, and certainly not any injuries or deaths that occur while they are in bankruptcy court. How can Chrysler and GM accept responsibility for injuries and deaths caused by some of their products, but not all of them? If our laws allow that, then the laws must be changed and new ones must be written. As American people, we have a right to have our voices heard. As part owners, we have a right to have our voices heard. I, for one, do not want to invest in a company that does not stand behind all of its products or accept responsibility for the safety of all of its consumers, past, present, and future. The American people have not been consulted about these deals. Many of us have raised our voices, but we have not been heard, until now. On Friday, June 26th, Congressman Andre Carson introduced H.R. 3088, the Jeremy Warner Consumer Protection Act, to the U.S. House of Representatives. While it is an honor to have my name attached to this bill, please remember that I am but one of hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have been injured by Chrysler or GM products. This bill, when signed into law, will require Chrysler and GM to purchase liability insurance that will cover both current claims and future claims as well. This bill is important for many reasons. It restores essential consumer protections that have been jeopardized by the bankruptcy process. It protects our Seventh Amendment right to a civil trial, and possibly more important, it gives our government the opportunity to show that it is in fact still a government for the people. These cases, both pending and future claims, must be heard. They represent hundreds of dangerous defects that need to be tracked by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That way, they can determine if and when recalls need to be issued. Some may result in recalls that need to be issued immediately. Based on a study by Safety Research Strategies, the safety of over 10 million vehicles is a huge amount of data to ignore that could result in the severe injury and death of tens of thousands of Americans over the next several years. If these cases are not heard in court, neither Chrysler or GM will ever admit that these defects exist, and they will not be tracked by the NHTSA. This will delay necessary recalls at best, but in most cases, these recalls that are extremely important will never be issued. Not all Chrysler and GM vehicles are defective, but we all know that dangerous defects do exist. They can and will cause disabling injuries and deaths, which will only lead to more Americans who rely on Social Security disability, Medicare, Medicaid, and other government-funded assistance programs. I do not believe that our government intentionally allowed this to happen, or that they want this to happen. They just didn't think through the consequences of giving these two manufacturers immunity from product liability cases. At the end of the day, the sanctity of human life, our safety, and the safety of our loved ones must come first before anything else. There is not a single person who wouldn't drop what they were doing and rush to the hospital if they learned that their loved one had been injured. There is not a single person who wouldn't hold the vehicle manufacturer accountable if you learned that your injuries or the injuries or death of a loved one was caused by that manufacturer's product. Allowing Chrysler and GM this immunity takes away our right to face them in court, and we have bought that immunity for them with our tax dollars. This is a mistake that needs to be fixed. I don't care about who was responsible for the mistake. I care only about who is going to take responsibility for fixing it. Congressman Carson took the crucial first step by introducing this bill. Now the bill needs support. I believe in our president, I believe in his administration, and I believe in our Congress. I trust them to understand that this is not a matter for political debate. A defective vehicle does not care whether you are a Democrat or Republican, whether you are a member of the UAW, whether you work for Chrysler or GM, or where your money comes from. I trust them to understand that this bill needs to be treated with the same sense of urgency that was given to the Chrysler and GM bankruptcies. I trust them to support this bill unanimously, because the alternative dramatically increases the risk that they, their loved ones, or their constituents will be severely injured or killed by a defective vehicle. After you've experienced something like I have, you learn that the theory of "it won't happen to me" doesn't really protect you or those you love. You also learn to see what can't be changed and what can. I can never regain my legs or the additional loss that has come from that. However, we can regain our right to hold Chrysler and GM accountable in court for injuries and deaths caused by all of their products. Supporting H.R. 3088, the Jeremy Warner Consumer Protection Act, will restore that right to all of us. I ask that everybody who hears this support this bill. I ask that all the American citizens who hear this write to their senators, write to their congressmen, write to our president, and let them all know that this is not something that we can accept and that they must support this bill because it protects all of us and in the end makes all of our lives safer by making our roads safer and by making new Chrysler and GM vehicles safer. Thank you.